Babysitting rule. Don't mention the man in the basement. Part 4. Hey guys, an update for you. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start at the beginning. I kept telling myself Annie didn't mean it. She wasn't thinking straight, lying there on the stretcher, half conscious, her arm bent the wrong way. She wasn't herself. She needed a reason, a normal reason for what happened. Of course she blamed Jamie. She didn't believe in the supernatural. The idea that a shadow, something unseen, something monstrous could have shoved her down those stairs was too much for her to process. So she found the only explanation that made sense. Jamie. But I knew she was wrong. Jamie was just as terrified as we were. More, maybe. I'd seen it in his eyes. The way he clung to me. The way his voice trembled when he whispered. Annie just couldn't let herself believe the truth. She spent the night in the hospital for observation, but she's okay, aside from a broken arm. I've tried reaching out since, but her replies are short and distant. Okay. Thanks. Maybe later. At least she isn't completely ghosting me, though every 1 or 2 word responses feel like another wall going up between us. And I can't even blame her. She got hurt because of me, because I brought her into that house. I knew something was wrong there, something darker than I wanted to admit, and it found her. Whatever it was, it's stronger and far more dangerous than I ever imagined. After the fall, I felt like I had no choice. I needed help. Someone, anyone who might understand what was happening. That's how I ended up in a tiny witchcraft shop in town. I'd driven past it dozens of times before, but never once thought to go in. It sat squeezed between a boarded-up cafe and an old pawn shop, its faded sign reading Apotheca in peeling gold letters. The moment I stepped inside, the air changed. It was warm and thick, with the scent of herbs, smoke, and something faintly metallic. Candles flickered in colored jars, casting restless shadows across shelves packed with crystals, dried flowers, and books whose spines were cracked with age. A woman appeared from behind the counter, older, maybe in her 60s, with silver hair pulled into a braid, her eyes sharp but kind. She didn't greet me with a smile, only said softly, "You're not here for candles." I hesitated. No, And then I told her about the basement, the knocks, the voice, Jamie, the shadows, Annie's fall, everything. My words spilled out faster than I could catch them. She didn't interrupt or look skeptical. She just listened, the corners of her mouth drawn tight in quiet concentration. Once I finished, she nodded once. "Sometimes," she said, "houses collect things. Energy, emotion, fear, grief, anger. They cling to the walls until someone makes them leave. The longer it stays, the heavier it gets." "So, how do I get rid of it?" I asked. She disappeared behind a beaded curtain for a moment, the faint click of glass and rustle of paper coming from the back. When she returned, she carried a small cloth pouch and a folded sheet of paper. "These will help clear what's built up," she said, laying the items out on the counter. Inside the pouch were smooth black and violet stones that shimmered in the candlelight, a few jagged volcanic-looking ones, and a small bundle of dried herbs tied with twine. The rough stones anchor the space. The smooth ones release what doesn't belong. The herbs, burn them when you're done to close the energy. She pushed the folded paper towards me. "And this," she said, "is what you say while you place them. Speak it aloud, like you mean it. Think of it as claiming your space." I opened the paper. The handwriting was small, deliberate. The words read, "Light within, darkness without. Heavy hearts, I cast you out. Stone and flame, air and sea. This place is cleared, so let it be." It's nothing to be scared of," she added quickly, perhaps seeing my expression. "It's just energy work. Don't think of it as fighting. You're restoring balance. You can even say it like a prayer, if that feels better." I nodded uncertainly. "Is it dangerous?" "Only if you believe it is," she said with a small smile. "You're cleansing, bringing good energy. That can only be positive." I paid, clutching the bag and paper in both hands. Babysitting hadn't prepared me for this, but I had to try. I left the shop, the bell above the door jingling softly as I stepped into the cold night, the scent of incense clinging to my coat. I decided to move bedtime up early. I couldn't wait. I needed to get the spell, or energy work, started. Needed to draw that line, cleanse the negativity away. I guided Jamie upstairs, tucked him in, and watched him shiver under the covers. Then I went downstairs, heart hammering, bag of crystals in hand. I placed the jagged stones around the basement door, following the instructions I was given. The smooth black crystals went in between, forming a protective circle. I burned a small pinch of the herbs, the smoke curling in the dim light. My hands shook as I whispered the cleansing words, focusing, commanding, imagining the boundary I was creating. Part of me felt so stupid, as if a few stones and words will do anything. But I wanted to believe it. Maybe if I believed in it strongly enough, it would work. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then I felt it. A pressure in the air, cold and heavy, pressing against my chest. My pulse quickened. My breath caught in my throat. The hallway felt smaller, suffocating. My hands lifted, trembling, unable to stop themselves. The crystals in the circle shifted slightly. A soft, scraping sound grew louder, like fingernails against wood. My stomach dropped. I swallowed, trying to steady my shaking legs. My hands moved faster, repeating the words, moving the crystals back into place. And then they began to slide across the floor violently. My stomach lurched, a wave of panic slamming into me. I stumbled backwards, heart hammering. The smooth crystals skittered like they were alive, spinning across the wooden floor. The jagged ones toppled, bouncing into the furniture. My throat tightened. I could barely breathe. The air around me seemed to pulse, icy and heavy, pressing into my skin. Then, the crash. The crystals smashed into the mirror in the hallway. The sounds reverberated through the house like a gunshot, making me jump and stumble. Glass shards flew across the floor, glittering like jagged teeth in the dim candlelight. My heart raced so fast I thought I would pass out. I sank to my knees, covering my face with shaking hands. When I dared to look, my eyes were drawn to the fractured mirror. Jagged shards jutted at every angle, glinting in the candlelight. I felt my throat tighten. I could barely inhale. In each piece, I swear, I saw glowing eyes staring back at me. A gust of icy wind swept through the hall, carrying a whisper that made my blood run cold. "You can't stop me." I stumbled backward, tripping over a rug, my voice catching in my throat as I tried to repeat the words. The shadows around the basement door stretched and twisted unnaturally, moving as if alive. The temperature dropped, my breath clouding in front of me. It wasn't just the basement anymore. It was the entire house. Whatever I tried to cleanse had fought back, and it was lashing out with everything it had. Jamie's voice floated down from upstairs, soft, trembling. "He says you've made him angry." I froze. My stomach dropped. I looked at little Jamie, his wide eyes full of terror, his lips trembling as if he might burst into tears. A pang of guilt shot through me. Had I made things worse for him? He'd always been a nervous little boy when I met him. Now he looked absolutely terrified. I fumbled an excuse about tripping and accidentally knocking the mirror over, trying to sound casual, but I knew he wouldn't believe me. I ushered him back to bed as best I could. Once he was asleep, I cleared away the crystals and carefully swept up the broken glass. My hands shook as I worked. Every shadow felt alive, every creak of the house a warning. I stayed on edge, listening for whispers, for anything, but the silence stretched on, eerie, unnatural. I didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing. David and Margaret came home, just as I was throwing away the last of the mirror shards. They paused in the doorway, their eyes darting to the splintered glass, but said nothing. They knew something had happened, but, as always, they tried to leave it unspoken. But this time, I couldn't. I needed answers. "What is that thing in the basement?" I asked, my voice trembling, but firm. They wouldn't look at me. Margaret busied herself with her coat, David with his keys. "Why don't you just leave? Move! Why stay here?" I demanded, louder than I meant to. They exchanged a long, silent glance, a look that carried weight I couldn't read. Finally, David spoke, his voice calm, but heavy, like he was repeating something he'd said many times before. "You wouldn't understand," he said. "Even if you tried, you wouldn't understand." "But for Jamie's sake," I cried out. A wave of something, I don't know what, frustration, anger, sadness, darkened their faces. They stood up and showed me to the door. And that was it. I left and sat in my car trembling. I had no idea how to stop it. No idea if I could. I just knew I had to try. For Jamie's sake, for my own, for whatever sanity was left in that house.